How's it going, everybody? My name's Warner Fields with Fields of Profit, and today I'm joined by my friend Zach, who's actually one of our students on the FBA roadmap, and he's been crushing it lately. So I wanted to bring him on to kind of talk about what he's been up to in his business, kind of where he's at with his Amazon journey. But if you kind of want to take a second just to introduce yourself, kind of let them know where you're at on your Amazon journey, we can kind of roll from there.
Sure, yeah. My name is Zach. I am about halfway through my fourth month. I started right at the beginning of May 2022. So I'm doing, I'm at 85,000 for the year. Ended July at about 36,000, 37, and hoping to do over 40 this month, kind of grow from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, so just to see that kind of quick growth is always cool to see. Just because everyone at home is going to be asking in the comments, what's your profit margin running about on that?
After everything is said and done, it's probably like 13%, 12 and a half. I'm not doing like lots of real high dollar stuff. My average price is probably $25. So, and I had to liquidate some stuff in July or whatever, but I'm shooting for 15. Obviously that's the goal, but it doesn't always work out that way. And you have software and other stuff too. So,
right. Yeah. And since you're just getting going, like it makes sense that you might be a little bit lower. Like you're still dealing with a lot of those like beginner mistakes and stuff you might have made, those bad product buys. You're talking about your ASP and stuff is fairly low. Average selling price for those of you who are new. What kind of products have you gravitated towards? Is there any categories or anything like that you've found success with early?
Yeah, early like health and beauty kind of stuff. A lot of vitamins, hairspray and shampoo and deodorant, that kind of stuff. I'm trying to move more into like hardware and auto parts and anything that goes with that because it seems like it's less saturated. And I've been thinking about making the jump into like, Nikes and shoes and apparel, but I haven't really taken that step yet.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I just like to see where everybody else starts at because everyone kind of gravitates towards certain things. And especially all of the new guys, you guys sitting at home, you're like, what do I even sell? Like selling anything under the sun, anything that's profitable. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. At the end of the day, a lot of times we're just buying the data. It doesn't really matter what it is. Like sometimes seasonality comes into play, but most of the time you're just buying data. So it really doesn't matter. Like just start with whatever you've got. And I like that you're thinking about like the hardware, automotive. I've noticed that as well. There seems to be a little less competition. So you might find some pretty good success with that. I've never really dabbled in those categories. So when you're sourcing right now, there's a bajillion different ways to find products. Is there any particular way that you've had this early success with?
Yeah, for sure. Reverse sourcing with SellerAmp, going through stores that way. I've tried everything, all the modules in the course, and they're all really cool. They all have their applications, I think. But time and time again, I come back to reverse sourcing with SellerAmp. And then I think probably second would just be some manual sourcing using common sense. If I have good luck with one brand, I'll just search them in Amazon and find 5 other products that they sell that I can also sell. So definitely reverse sourcing number one.
Cool. Yeah. The manual sourcing, something I've been doing a lot of lately as well. Kind of let the virtual assistants handle like the tactical arbitrage, the reverse searching even. But as you learn more and more, and I'm sure you're already picking up stuff where it's like, you're going to go through websites, go through sales sections. You're just going to be like, oh, that item, it's on sale. There's a coupon. Like it seems like something might sell quickly on Amazon. And I'm sure you're already running into that kind of stuff. It'll just increase more and more. Are you kind of seeing that where you're like, oh, I bet that's flippable?
Yeah, I think probably 3 or 4 weeks into doing it, I started to it kind of started clicking for me where I could see stuff. It becomes more instinct than just like actually crunching through, keeping graphs and all that. Like you can tell pretty quickly on a listing if it's going to work. And then you see stuff in other stores or on other websites that it's worth a search at least. Like it's at least worth a quick look. And that way you can find a lot of stuff that's not as saturated because, everybody's going through each other's storefronts and, you got 100 sellers on one item. But when you just go a little bit outside that line and do some manual sourcing, like you said, you can find stuff that only has 3 or 4 or 5 sellers on it and moves really fast. So that's been a gold mine.
It's nice to find the balance because, reverse sourcing is great, but by definition, you're kind of trailing whoever you're sourcing off of. So it's really awesome to like get those ideas and then try to use like a little bit of manual getting to be like a first mover on products, similar products or variations of that clothing item or shoe or whatever you're looking at. There's a lot of value in doing that. And I think there's a very common question and complaint I hear all the time as well is, I'm reverse sourcing, I'm going through SellerAmp and Keepa and all that. I can't find anything. And it's a very similar thing, like learning sales and learning coupons, learning where you might be able to find certain items. Is there anything else that's been able to kind of shorten your learning curve on that reverse sourcing process?
I think it's when I'm scrolling down, actually looking at the Keepa charts. Like I think you can kind of go into auto mode and you're looking at the max cost and you're looking at like, if everybody has Arbitrage Hero, but it has like, a couple little possible places you could buy it right there. And you can just scroll and scroll and scroll. And then I'll realize like a couple minutes in, I haven't actually looked at any Keepa charts. And just seeing right there that it's like either tanking or, that the offer count's going way up or whatever, like you can save yourself a lot of time by actually looking at those and actually paying attention instead of just clicking open every single link or bypassing stuff that might be really good.
Yeah, no, I like that. So, we're getting into the technical a little bit, but I'm also just curious about like you as a person, like right now is, I guess I should say, is Amazon kind of your full-time income right now, or you got something else else started working on?
Yeah, it is. A company I was working for fell apart in January. And so I was kind of kicking around the idea of going back to an office job and absolutely hated that idea. And so I talked to my wife and we decided, like I'll try this starting in May. And by the end of July, I have to be selling 35,000 a month or more for this even to be a viable option. And so we got there. I wasn't sure if it would actually happen, but it did happen. And it actually, I think I could have done more. Like looking back on it, there were a lot of things I could have done better.
Yeah, no,
But I'm
that's awesome,
excited.
right? Like that's like the American dream, right? Like you lost a job or whatever, like whatever the intro, whatever starts the story, but you started something, you're like, all right, I gotta hit it, I gotta hit the deadlines, and now it's a full-time income. So
Yeah.
that's awesome to hear. That's super cool. You should,
Yeah.
hype yourself up a little bit. You're saying like, yeah, I'm full-time. Like you did it in like 4 months. You made a full-time income in 4 months. That's amazing.
I know it is. It really is very cool. And I love it. I've got young kids and a family and stuff, and just being able to be home and have a flexible schedule is
Mhm.
amazing. So I love that.
Yeah, even just making your own hours is such a nice perk.
Yeah.
So where's your vision for the long term? Like, you're gonna scale this OA business? You want to do private label? Like, what do you see long term on Amazon or just in e-commerce in general?
Yeah, I think OA is it for me right now. I have some contacts in wholesale and stuff and some opportunities there that I've actually pushed back a little bit because maybe it's just my personality, but I feel like I really want to master OA before I move on to anything. Like there's a lot of opportunity in OA, even though there's so many sellers out there and there's everybody jumping on similar products, but there's still so much opportunity. So that's my goal for now. And then, maybe in 6 months or something, I'll jump into wholesale from there. I don't think I do any private label just because I've known too many people that have
Sure.
gotten burned or put up a ton of money and lost it all or whatever. But I think OA for now and probably wholesale over the long term.
Yeah, no, for sure. It just makes sense, like as a long-term evolution of the business. Eventually you're gonna have big catalogs of profitable items you can sell, and then take that to a wholesale distributor. Eventually, combine all that data together. That's kind of what I'm working on now, is getting some big distributors, combining that with all the leads we found, and it's going to be really powerful. I'm sure you'll be able to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But I like that you're not kind of capping yourself with the OA business. Like you see the potential. I see that when I talk with other guys who are doing well. The further along they get, the more they're like, there's so much opportunity. It's funny how I hear from the people who aren't selling, or like they're just starting. There's like, oh, it's too saturated. Like there's nothing out
Right.
here. Like
Right.
like genuinely, I know I wouldn't be out here giving away all the secrets if I didn't think there was like a crazy amount of opportunity. But there
Yeah,
is. Like
exactly.
every time I'm out there buying product, I'm like, okay, I could spend 5 here and 10 here, and there's so much opportunity. Keep pursuing that. And for those of you who are on the fence, like it's a huge market, tons of opportunity to go after. Yeah. So I guess another question that a lot of people will probably be wondering, since you were able to go full time like right away, what did you start with in terms of startup funds?
Probably around 10,000 and then some credit after that, which, everybody has different feelings on leveraging credit right at the beginning. We have it backed up in other investments, so it's
Right.
not money that we couldn't pay back if we had to, but it just allowed me to get going a lot faster than if it was purely on the cash we had in the bank. So it's pretty much a mix of that. I think right now my spend goal is about 25,000 a month, and I think the first month I want to say it was about 10,000. I'm not sure if I actually got there the first month, but that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and generally, like for those of you who are at home, you've got $1,000 to your name. Probably don't put it on a credit card, but
Yeah.
for guys like you and people who have the money, like if you can afford to lose the money, it's okay to use some credit to get the ball rolling. Clearly, it's worked for Zach, and it can work for you. Generally, I'm going to tell people not to start with credit. There's exceptions, but that's kind of the caveat there. Don't over leverage. If it's like your first business, or you're like you're an 18-year-old, just start simple. Pulling some things together and making it work, especially with that short kind of time frame you had. So just to kind of start wrapping us up, what's holding you back right now? Like, what are the questions that you have? You're probably not the only person wondering that same question. I see if I can give you some feedback, help you grow your business. And yeah, what's holding you back right now?
Yeah, one of the biggest lessons I learned is not to rely too heavily on replens. I got to a point where I kind of got lucky or whatever, and I had a bunch of listings that I could just keep buying and buying and selling. And I pretty much stopped sourcing for a few weeks. And that really came back to burn me because, a few of those listings tanked. And then I think the biggest question I have for you is like, how do you handle listings where the buy box gets suppressed and doesn't appear to be coming back? Like, how long do you wait before you just decide to dump it? Or I guess, how do you handle that?
Yeah. So a lot of times, like if an item loses the buy box, so for the brand new guys, whenever you go to Amazon, you click add to cart, that's the buy box. That's where most of the sales come from. So a lot of listings that don't have a buy box, they sell fine. So like if you source an item, it doesn't have a buy box, it'll keep selling about the same. So those are good. A lot of times you'll buy an item, it'll have the buy box, it'll lose it, and then the price goes way down. New seller count goes way up. Those are the items you're talking about, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it basically becomes like more or less a price battle once that buy
Right.
box gets suppressed, and I don't want to be selling at a loss even, or
Yes.
even down below
Right.
20%. So
Yeah. I think it really depends on the item, and you'll develop that skill set over time. But for us, it's kind of just a cash flow decision. So after a month with no sales, if it kind of tanks like that, especially if it's like a super tanked listing listing, we'd probably just liquidate at whatever it takes. Sometimes we'll cut to like break even, maybe a little bit of a loss, and then give it 2 months. Just, if we see stuff like the new seller count decreasing, the simple economics of it, if it looks like the supply and demand might meet a little bit higher, we would maybe wait for it. If it's just staying tanked, there's still a ton of guys on it, just get your money back, put it into something better. And that's definitely a muscle that you'll learn over time. Working on developing the systems for my business to kind of automate all that. But even now it's still difficult to know, like, when do I cut prices? When do I hold out? A lot of times you'll look back at an item and it raised in price $10. You're like, dang, I could have made good money on that. And then a lot of times it's like, whoa, I sold 6 months ago. It's still the same price. Good thing I sold. So there's definitely like a trade-off there. And that's kind of why we just try to stick to those like 30, 60 day no sales metrics. Takes the emotion out of it and just, makes it more of a cash flow decision instead of like, oh, I messed up. Like I want to hold out and make a profit on this item. Right. But yeah, you'll develop it over time. I wish there was like a perfect answer for that. Really just depends on your cash flow,
Yeah, I think when you're new and you have 15 listings or 20 listings, like every single one is emotional and it feels like you're just hanging on the edge of every sale. But as you get to, 50 listings or more, like it starts to become, like you said, more of a rational decision, not an emotional decision. So I've learned that. I think that's been the biggest challenge for me is just handling like listings that tank, listings that get a buy box suppression, because no matter how good the sourcing is, that can happen. And I've learned how to source better because of it, but it's not always a sourcing problem. So I think just learning to handle that has been my biggest hurdle, but I feel a lot better about it now than I did a month ago. So
good. Yeah. And that's perfectly valid fear. I know a lot of new sellers are fearing the same thing. Like I make mistakes. I buy tanked listings. No one's going to be perfect, but that's why it's so important to like stick to your threshold. Like, that 30%, 35%, wherever you want to set that bottom baseline. It's because if you set it lower than that, you could probably get away with it in a perfect world, but selling on Amazon is certainly not a perfect world.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, so just to kind of wrap us up, do you have any last minute words of advice for the guy or girl sitting at home? I haven't really sold much. Maybe they sold the first couple items. What should they go do?
Yeah, I mean, it's a grind. Like in the Discord channel, like people ask that question all the time that they've been sourcing and they can't find anything. And it's like, well, how long have you been sourcing? And they're like, well, I've been at it for 4 hours. And, there are going to be days where you find nothing, or you work 8 hours and you find nothing. And then 5 minutes later, you find 5 listings or 10 listings. If you find that storefront, that you can find storefronts with easily 10 listings that you can jump on in one storefront. So always just be willing. Like when I feel like quitting, unless I'm super tired and I just need to go to bed, but sometimes I just try to put in 30 more minutes or 1 more hour of sourcing. And it almost always works out that you end up finding a bunch of stuff right after you would have quit. So it's a grind at first, but it gets way easier. Honestly, my workflow and time commitment and all that is way more manageable now than it was in the first month, even though I'm doing much more volume.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I like that. So if you're watching this video, go get after it. If you want to check out the FBA roadmap, the guide that he and many other guys are using, it's also linked down below. I hope a lot of people make money there. Feel free to like. Oh, he's even repping the merch today. I appreciate that. Yeah. So if you guys got value out of this video, comment, like, all that good stuff. Helps me out with the algorithm. If you have any questions, drop those down below as well. Always happy to help you guys out. But I appreciate you guys watching. I will see you next time.